Okay, I'm back. Let's look at the rest of these books real quick. We're not that quick. These are more small books from the nonfiction section, and I'm realizing some of these are not. Maybe it's just because they're small books. They were over there because not everything is nonfiction right here. Hold on. In fact, only one is not, and I'm going to move this to another section. Just because it's the same size doesn't mean it belongs here. But this is Mark Bayer. He lives in Albuquerque now, but this guy is famous. I mean, he had a show on Liquid Television in the 90s on MTV called The Adventures of Thomas and Nardo. About a guy in his house, and his house was his friend and could change sizes. Kind of a Jake the Dog, preview in a way. But he was in every issue of Art Spiegelman's very influential Raw magazine, which showcased underground talent, except the very first one. Mark Bayer, America's best primitive cartoonist, highly recommended Horth catalog. He's one of the flukiest geniuses in comics. What does that mean? Some people are bad at giving quotes. This is about Amy and Jordan. This is not the only book. Bayer is a Hieronymus Bosch for the 1980s. Enjoy the ecstasy of agony. Amy and Jordan are in constant danger from employers, landlords, police, serial killers, and their own depression. Each graphic, angular panel moves them through a world of radiation, caves, high-rises, and sleazy bars as they circle the globe for no apparent reason. If you like black humor, this is the blackest. Oh, it's a paperback with a dust jacket. Those are rare. I've only got a couple of those. Right now, this might be the only one I own. There's this great Japanese publisher that has paperbacks with dust jackets, and I guess I don't have any anymore. Maybe one. Yeah, I've got one. House of Sleeping Beauties. But I used to have more. What is this company? Japan's Modern Writing. Kodansha. Yeah, paperbacks with dust jackets. Not common. Ugh. Using my oven for the first time at this new place. I don't cook a lot, okay? I'll cook more. I'll work on it. Did I loan this to somebody? I must have. I don't usually write my name in books and numbers. Must have really wanted to keep this. Oh, yeah. I loaned all of my graphic novels and graphic memoirs to somebody I was going to collaborate with. And dude kept them for like 2 years and made no effort to get them back to me. That's why I wrote this in there. I had to eventually drive to his house and get him. He thought he got a bunch of free books, I think. Sometimes you encounter a very bad borrower. Like, don't even pressure people to borrow that many books. You know, this is someone that was going to collaborate with me. And I like him overall. He's a cool guy, but I was upset about that scenario. Don't pressure me to borrow a ton of books if you're just going to like let them sit in your house and make them part of your collection and never even suggest driving them to me, getting them back to me. I remember when I went and finally picked him up, he seemed like upset. I thought I got 40 free books. No, he did not. But Mark Bayer's style is completely unconventional. I was going to collaborate with him on a chapter of my book, which I've talked about in other videos, I think. The comic book about my adolescence. But he just kind of kept the stuff for a long time and didn't do anything with it. He had a lot going on at the same time. But Mark Bayer is great, and I wish that would have worked out. I mean, he got Art Spiegelman to give us a positive quote about our project. So I had a quote about a chapter of my book from Art Spiegelman, who was excited about it. It was so cool. So that means at one point, Art Spiegelman was aware of my work. Maybe his wife also, who edits The New Yorker. Crazy. But if you get the excellent comic guidebook, Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, Mark Bayer is in there as representing the least representative art that makes it into comics at a real extreme end of the spectrum that's established in that comic. His work is interesting. This book's, the layouts aren't too experimental, but he has some that really are. He's got like triangular panels, and Mark Bayer's great. This is in the wrong section. It's here only because of its size. It's getting moved. Practice for its moving. This is the only 33 1/3 book I kept. Sorry, my oven just went off because it was burning out some old stuff in it. Or my fire alarm went off. And I'm sure everyone else in this building loved that. But I have this not because I'm some big Celine Dion fan. I'm not. But because this author didn't really like Celine Dion, I think detested her, and wrote this book about like exploring what makes something good or bad. And it's a really fascinating work. It's been expanded into a much bigger book too. This 33 1/3 series is all about albums. Each one's about an album. And they really vary in quality. To the company's credit, they let people be experimental and stuff, but it means like you think you're getting a book about, oh, Meat is Murder from the Smiths, and someone's freaking experimental novel, you know? Big who cares, personally, in my opinion. I don't know, just something that doesn't reward your desire to find out about, a band or an album or something you love. But I remember really enjoying this book, and it's funny and interesting and had a lot of cool thoughts in it, and kind of chilled me out a little bit on some of my judgments. And so that's a good thing to read, I think. Carl Wilson did the talk show circuit for this too, and gave some very interesting interviews. I read this. It was good. I kept it. It survived the purge. Only 2 of these books did. I also pitched them once. I mentioned this in the last video vaguely. They had an open submissions period once where writers could send them pitches. And I had already had a published essay about Caribou's album Start Breaking My Heart. And I wanted to expand that into a short book length work. And they rejected it. But it was weird. I remember I was working on my pitch for it at a local cafe. And I looked over and there was a guy working on a pitch for another album. What? Little book about ethics. I like little books about big subjects. For Ruth, Winter 2003, Essays for a Good Person, David. Is that what the youngsters call Riz? 7 Threats to Ethics: the death of God, relativism, egoism, evolutionary theory, determinism, and futility, unreasonable demands, false consciousness. Some ethical ideas. Birth, death. Have I read this? I don't know if I have. I think I did, but it was so long ago, and I just don't remember much from it. It was recommended to me by a professor. I remember that. I think it was from this TA who was really into Indian philosophy and knew all about it. And he listed this as something. It was from somebody like that. No, I love like a beautiful hardcover book, and this is a great series about different artistic things. The golden section. Yeah, once you start seeing that spiral everywhere. This is in a series of such books. And one day I was at this museum, children's museum here in town, when my kids were really little and they were occupied with something. And I read a bunch of these books, read from them anyway. Just sitting there, I was like, this is so great. While they were running around doing whatever, feeling independent. Ooh, this book is like heavy. What is this? Oh, it's on like full color, heavy duty paper. That's nice. Scientist, painter, philosopher, what else? Anatomist, astronomer, engineer, inventor, courtier. One of the greatest figures of the Renaissance. Oh, the mind of the Renaissance. What a quote. I love Da Vinci. I'm glad to know I have this. I appreciate this reminder. I'll read this. I've read a bunch of books about him. Dude was just, wow. Amazing individual. I liked his fictional representation in the movie Ever After, which I watched with my kids sometimes too. It's fun. Oh. These are some philosophy books that survived the purge. I got rid of a lot of that stuff. But how do you get rid of a book that's this beautiful? Why is there something rather than nothing? 23 questions from great philosophers. Oh, that's a little chunk, as the internet says. A little chunky square boy. Do we have free will? How can we know anything? What is justice? Why is there evil in the world? What is the source of truth? I think it's good to have little books like this. Books you can just throw into a bag sometime when you go on a little trip, a little hike out in the desert. Go sit on a boulder. Read this biz. Nietzsche. Nature of God. Do we have free will? Oh, Spinoza. Did Einstein say he believed in Spinoza's God? By which I think he just meant a sense of order. Oh, this is great. It's like a history of big ideas. It looks like they get earlier the farther back you go in here. That's so great. I gotta read this. In the English edition. Oh, it's in translation. By Leszek Kolakowski. Wonder where from. Yeah, it looks like it moves forward in time. Socrates, Parmenides, Heraclitus, Plato, Epictetus, Sextus Empiricus, St. Augustine, St. Anselm, St. Thomas Aquinas, William of Ockham, Occam's razor, Descartes, Spinoza. Wow. Isn't humanity interesting? Aren't we a crazy species, y'all? I mean, just the big story, all of it's interesting. It's all interesting. We've been around for so long, asking all these questions and figuring ourselves out and refining who we are. I love it. And this book is beautiful. We'll read. Just picked this up today from a free pile at the middle school I've been subbing at. But it's good to have the Constitution. Squirrel loves the Constitution. She won't shut up about it. I'm like, people are going to start thinking you're like in a militia or something. But, you know, it's okay. At least she's got, you know, she's thinking about this stuff. What show was it? Was it in The Good Place? Where a character's like, oh, it was in Community, I think. The First Amendment. The amendment that was so important. It was the first one we thought of after we'd already written the Constitution. Something like that. I think it was Britta's character that said that in Community. That is a great show. So creative. Full of heart and funny. One last thing. Century. I don't think I have any other book like this. This thing just like speaks of itself from the shelf every time. Oh, so these books span the whole these photos span the whole 20th century. Okay. Okay, this is the kind of book you should have. Some of these photos could probably really mess you up. Plunge you into thought. But also help you create tone for time and place if you're writing about a time or a place, nonfiction or fiction, or poetry, whatever. Drama. Dummies dressed up for the third atomic bomb test. Oh, this is like a book to read in order, probably. Chinese girls dramatizing their support for Mao and their rejection of the teachings of Confucius. Oh, I never thought about that dichotomy. I don't know anything about that. Muhammad Ali, Fresh from a Victory. Okay, this book seems well composed. Look at these similar gestures on these 2 pages. Totally different images. I remember my friend Jody Malone, who's just one of the most literate, fun, awesome people I've ever known in my life. When I first showed her an issue of Found magazine of things that were found, she's all, I'm going to look through this for meaning and its curation and arrangement. That's awesome. This book looks like it would reward the same sort of thing. Oh, there's some real stuff in here. Kabul, children displaced by the war. Bill Clinton, Malian saxophone. There's text too, like his footnotes. Oh my gosh. Air France Concorde catches fire on takeoff from Paris' Charles de Gaulle airport. It crashed moments later. Wow. Has that been an album cover? This could be cool. Oh, still from Unshen Andalou. Oh, the worst still. Why'd you have to choose that one? The cloud moved across the sky like a razor across an eye. No! I mean, that is an incredible work of dreamlike film, but I had to read about the making of it and that they used a dead cow's eye bought at a market and all this stuff. I just needed to know all this information before I watched it because I did not want to watch that described razor eye scene that I'd heard about. I'm sensitive. French cavalry. Are you the Gnome Brigade? Look at those hats. Mahatma Gandhi outside his law practice in South Africa. If I ever knew about that chapter, I've forgotten about it. Whoa, look at this. Bloody Sunday in Russia. On January 22nd, a petition was taken for humble presentation to the Tsar at the St. Petersburg Winter Palace. Its bearers were mown down. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was a reason that the revolution needed to happen. The Tsar was not cool. The War and Peace will give you some nuance on that whole scene. San Francisco burning after the Great Earthquake. Century, cool little book. Interesting. Yeah, clean it up. From Fade On. Yeah, all right. These are all going to go back. Okay, those nonfiction paperbacks are living in the nonfiction overflow section. A little crowded, but that's how it goes. Anyone know what that sound is? That looks alright. That looks alright. The door's open because that alarm went off. Lost some things over here, but that's good. Room to grow. And maybe I'll rearrange some of these stacked ones to take up some of that space. Maybe. Restored. Alright, we've looked at that whole top shelf there. And a little bit of the next part. But we'll get those next 2 shelves next, I suppose. Nonfiction. Sends you places. There's so much to it. Think what a varied lot of things these are. Hard to think they're all related. But they are by this crazy world. This thing we call reality. All right. Take care, everybody. Hope you had a good day. It's been all right. It's had hope. School being back at work. Subbing Middle School. Jefferson Middle School. And I don't know, the students were friendly and nice overall. And it was good. In a social studies class, so I knew what I was talking about. And 3 of the students in 3 of the classes were former trekkers when I was working at that wilderness camp. They're all, you. It's cool. Nice bunch of people. Teaching can be rewarding. It can also erode your soul. Why not both? All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. I'm going to eat.